While campaigning for governor of New York in Harlem, Republican nominee Zeldin blamed the migrant situation in the Big Apple on President Biden. Zeldin defended the Democratic mayor, Eric Adams, for the situation, in which thousands of migrants have been bussed into the city from border states like Texas and Arizona. Adams had to hastily construct a tent city in the Bronx to house the migrants, which Zeldin said was not okay. Zeldin also sounded off on what he considered lax crime and bail laws enacted by progressive lawmakers. Focusing on quality of life and crime issues is central to Zeldin's long-shot campaign against Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul.
First of all, on the migrant crisis, which we asked about, we're hearing reports now that there aren't enough, there isn't enough food and not enough baby formula in some of these shelters where the migrants are going. I know you criticize the border, but specifically right now, does the city need to be doing more to make sure these folks are taken care of?
Well, first off, we have a baby formula shortage, which is still a lingering issue all across the entire country. So that's a real issue, regardless of whether you're inside of one of these migrant shelters or you're just any other New York family or American family. There was an issue inside of these shelters before the first bus arrived from Texas. And quite frankly, not only have there been flights been coming into New York, but they're still coming into New York. There's this debate that's going on as to whether or not this migrant crisis created an issue inside of the shelters. And I think it's most accurate to say there was a crisis inside of the shelters before. And right now, whatever resources, there should be resources that are used to make sure that we're taking care of all sorts of these priorities in our city, in our state, in our country. However, whatever we do to have a great day today, to deal with these issues today, they're only going to get worse tomorrow. And you know, you're seeing it coming. We're all going to be gathering in the Bronx, where they're creating a tent city, and we'll be having a conversation about why that is not okay. So you might as well lean into that reality that's coming, because that level of accountability and discussion is only going to happen next. Regardless of party, we need the federal government to step up and do more. And it's not about what do you do to deal with this today inside of New York City. It's about making sure it doesn't get worse tomorrow inside of New York City by securing our border. And I've outlined so many different ways to do that. As you've indicated, we come with specifics, we come with solutions. Those specifics and those solutions are not being followed, and that's why this keeps getting worse. It's not because of Mayor Adams not providing enough baby formula to someone in a shelter today. That's not why you're asking the question truly, because even if he did, you're going to have more of a question to ask tomorrow, because they just keep coming. Absolutely. Now listen, when you see these individual stories and you learn more about it, and I see we have a McDonald's across the street. We were down at the McDonald's on Delancey Street a few weeks ago, and in that case, you can have a conversation about whether or not the Axeman was undercharged, whether or not there should be a cashless bail law where the judge can't weigh dangerousness and must release that person back out on the street. We were just talking about 2 Mexican cartel drug smugglers, and then last week there was the person who got attacked, as I mentioned earlier, by someone who the parole officer was unable to keep detained despite the parole violation from August. The EMT case, we still need to learn more. As far as I'm aware as of now, I don't know of a past criminal record. There clearly is an extreme level of mental health issues that would cause somebody to do that. What the government's interaction with that person has been, I don't know, from the past. Was there some point where the system broke down? Where he should have gotten help and he didn't? I don't know enough about him in that particular case. But it was just the next day, while we were all mourning what had happened to that EMT, that we read about the steam fitter who got stabbed to death fatally on an L train. People are walking these streets now with their head on a swivel in a way that they shouldn't have to. People telling me stories about how if they have to go 2 blocks, they're calling an Uber rather than walking. People who used to go out for a morning walk at 5 a.m. now don't feel safe to do so. We were together at another press conference when we were talking about the Jewish man who has to take his yarmulke off in the subway and his wife won't even ride the subway. There's so many different facts and stories behind the reality of the criminal and behind the reality of the victim. Part of this has to do with the laws. Part of this has to do with the DAs. Part of this has to do with the judges and the courts. Part of this is a mental health issue and education. And it really sums up the whole reason why we're here this morning. Why we put together this 5-pillar plan called Pathways Up is because we feel like this starts early in grade school. And people go on different paths and they need a job, they need to be able to live independently, they need to have a roof over their head, and they need to be able to have food on their table, they need to be able to live the American dream, and right now that dream is not possible. And it's leading some people down a life where they're the one committing that unprovoked attack, harming others. We can't paint this all with one broad brush. There's a lot to it.
With a month to go in the election, what do you think your path to victory against Governor Hochul is at this point?
In what respect?
Your path to victory, what do you think it is with a month to go against Governor Hochul?
So, the election's 5 weeks from tomorrow. I mean, I was just here in Harlem yesterday, and I'll keep coming back over and over again. And there's some parts of this state where people are very conservative. They'll vote for us. It's about turning out the vote. See, in New York City, we'll do well on Staten Island. We'll do well in Bay Ridge and Brighton Beach and Middle Village and elsewhere. But then it's about spending time with individual communities. Many dozens of events with the Asian American community. I spent a lot of time working closely with the Hispanic community, with the Jewish community, with the Black community. We need people to get registered to vote and then actually vote. And by the way, when they actually show up to vote, be informed. Show up knowing what your options are. We're encouraging people to get involved, to participate. For us, we're taking nothing for granted. We know that as far as the pathway to victory, we can't get less than 29% of the vote in New York City. We know that if we get over 35% of the vote in New York City, it becomes very unlikely that we lose the race. So we're spending a lot of time in the city. We're here almost every single day to earn the support of voters and to keep showing up to earn keeping the support of voters.